everyone, this is Crafty Mama Dawn with DBD Crafts. This is my very first ever video tutorial and I chose to do it on acrylic pouring today. Before me is an acrylic pour that I did several days before this video was shot. And I wanted to do basically a brand new intro to video pouring for those of you who just want to give it a try or are starting out. So I have all of my supplies laid out in front of me and I can discuss each of the supplies with you. I've chosen to do a voiceover because my original recording was very repetitive and I just didn't sound intelligent enough and wanted to do it again because I was so nervous when I did the video in the first place. So before me I have all of my supplies. I am using canvases today, but you can use cardboard, paper, plastic, metal, glass, wood, anything that you can pour paint on and pick it up and move it around. I've got some Liquitex varnish that I was going to add in, but because of my nerves I completely forgot to do so. There's some Spot On treadmill silicone oil that I use very sparingly. I've got plastic cups, stir sticks, water, pre-mixed paints, and then I'm going to mix 4 or 5 colors. You can use different kinds of paints. I showed there a golden fluid acrylic, and then there's some Liquitex basics. You can use dollar store paints, you can use dollar store glue, you can use dollar store canvases, so you really don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't have to have silicone oil, you will get cells regardless. Here is a painting that I poured 2 days prior to filming this video, and I use Elmer's Glue All as my additive. And you can see that the colors are still very vibrant even though I have no varnish on there. I have noticed that Floetrol tends to dry very flat and dull looking, and you need the varnish to bring the colors back to life. I showed you the back of the painting and how messy it can get, so I've started taping the backs of my canvases. Sometimes I get in a hurry and I just do it without taping it, but really I prefer a taped edge. So I'm going to quickly show you. Just take some basic masking tape and measure it off. I try to get it as close to the top edge and the side edge as possible. It's probably maybe a 1/16 of an inch away from the edge of the canvas. It's really easy. There's no math involved. I just tack it there, cut it, and firmly spread it down, push it down. I leave this on through the painting process and through the varnishing process, or if you're going to coat it in resin, you'll want to leave it on for sure, because resin, as it drips down to the side, will form hard balls, and then when the resin's dry you just peel the tape off and the balls come right off with it. It's really nice. I like to finish mine by wrapping it, placing over the back of it black craft paper, and then putting my hanger and my logo and sticker on it. But you can finish however you want. These also look really good standing on an easel. These are canvas boards that come in packages of like 5 or 10. I didn't tape the back of those. That is my blaze torch. I primarily use it for jewelry making, but it works really well for this application. I have a larger torch for larger canvases and for resin work, but this one works great. I keep a dry towel and a wet towel close by, and I always wear an apron and gloves. I don't have a very large work surface here, so being organized is really important. If I didn't take the time to get everything prepared and ready, that's when big accidents happen, like cups of paint being spilled, or knocked over, and you forgetting to do something. Nerves will do that as well, so that's why I forgot to put in the Liquitex varnish. This is the first time I am using Floetrol. As I stated earlier, I generally use Elmer's Glue All as my additive, and it kind of dries clear but with with a little bit of a sheen. Floetrol dries completely clear and flat. To me, it almost looks like it sucks the color out of the painting, but it doesn't. You'll notice that all of these additives, glue, Floetrol, pouring mediums, they're all white and they dry clear. So because they dry clear, you can add red into it and you're going to mix up red, not pink. It doesn't lighten it or change the color. Whatever color you started with is the color it will mix up as. So I'm selecting out my colors. I've picked a black and a white and that teal and a copper metallic. I always like to put at least one metallic in, because when you put a metallic in, it puts this shimmer throughout the entire painting, and it ends up just being really pretty. One of the artists that I follow uses copper metallic a lot, so I thought I would give it a try. I don't like it as much as she does, but I think I'm just more of a silver girl. When you use metallics, the acrylic metallic paints are always thicker, and when you put them with an additive and then add water, they tend to clump. So you're going to have to stir twice as much to mix a metallic paint as you would to mix any other color. In my tubes of pre-mixed paints, those are all fluid acrylics from Michaels. So they're kind of thinner, like that golden. That golden is a fluid acrylic paint as well. So you'll see it takes little to no stirring to get it mixed up. But you can use dollar store paint. It really, really doesn't matter. I get most of my supplies from Amazon. I live in a rural area, and so they deliver right to my door. The stir sticks that I use, you can see on the table there's dried paint on them. Actually, it's just stained. I've washed them. But I wanted to point out the flat ends. All of the cups that you're mixing in have little grooves going down the side and little gutters or valleys on the bottom of the cups. It's really important to use a stir stick that is square on the bottom to reach down into those crevices so that you can stir it up really well. You'll notice as I'm mixing this metallic, the bottom of the cup, you can see the white sitting down in the groove, and so you really need to go around and scrape the sides and scrape the bottom and really mix it completely up so that there's no white remaining visible, and that is true with every color. I have a bad right hand, so as I'm stirring paints, I often will need to take a break because my hand will cramp up. And because you're mixing these with water, I'll just pour a little bit of water on the top so that it protects the rest of the paint underneath it from drying up, and I'll go take a break for 15 minutes and come back and continue to stir. The tubes of paint that I already have pre-mixed there, to pre-mix, I think I have a dozen tubes of pre-mixed paint, and it took me like 2 hours to mix it all. So this is a very time-consuming process. In my other videos after this, I will have all of the paint pre-mixed. I will not be mixing it on film, but this is important for you to see how to mix. Everyone has a different formula. This is really just a chemistry project. So you can use 1 part additive to 1 part paint. You can use 2 parts additive to 1 part paint. However you want, whatever your budget is, whatever you like the feel of more or the results that you get, it's all up to you. If you use silicone in your paintings, you will need to, once dry, before you put a varnish or resin on it, you will need to take an alcohol wipe and wipe it down. So either put rubbing alcohol on a white cloth and rub down your painting, or use what's called an alcohol wipe. commonly found in first aid supplies. The reason is the paint dries, the water evaporates, but the silicone oil does not. And so it'll leave this film and shiny spot on your painting where it's added. And if you're going to resin over it, for example, it'll actually dimple. Varnish will like roll off of it because it's an oil. So you definitely need to make sure, if you're using silicone oil, that you're removing it from your dried painting's surface before you continue to a varnish or a resin. I'm almost done with all of this mixing, and you're going to see me add 2 to 3 drops of silicone oil per 6 ounce of paint here. I know lots of artists who put big squirts in their paint. You do not need to use any silicone oil at all. You are still going to get cells even if you don't use any. The first half a dozen paintings that I did, I didn't have any silicone oil, and I can't tell the difference between the little 8x10 paintings that I did with it or without it. It is more evident when you go on a larger canvas. Here I'm checking the consistency. I like mine a little bit runnier. A lot of artists tend to like it to be the consistency of honey. I prefer a little bit thinner than that. I've watched other artists say that their paintings cracked when they dried, and that's because the paint was too thick and they had too much on the canvas when they were done with it. So I prefer it a little bit thinner so that I can move it around easier and pour off what I need. So as I said, this process is time consuming, and all of my other videos will not show this part. I will have all of it pre-mixed off of camera. Here I'm getting ready to put in the couple of drops. This is also where I would have added the varnish. I would have added like a teaspoon of varnish to each 6 ounce cup, but I forgot. So I was so nervous and scared really doing this video. It's quite something to put yourself out there for the world to judge you on. So I'm also working on camera angles. I prefer not to have a straight down camera shot because I want you to see how much paint I'm putting into each cup and how close I'm holding the torch to my paint and how far I'm tipping the canvas. All of these things disappear when you have a straight down shot. The downside is you're getting my body into this camera angle. So in the future videos you'll see I've played with the angle. I got an easel instead of the selfie stick that I'm using today, and I'm more focused in future videos on the actual art. So these bins are Sterilite brand. I got them at Target. I believe they're $4.99. They work absolutely fantastic for this application. I bought 5 of them, and then I ordered these cookie cooling racks from Amazon. They came in a 4-pack, and this way I can make 10 canvases at one time, put them into the bins, put the lids on, stack the bins, and they can all dry dust free without risk of being damaged and without me having to leave them out into the room. I am so nervous here that I didn't realize I put the cooling racks on top of the bin wrong. So normally I split them apart, and instead of having large gaps on the ends like I do, I have the gap in the middle, and I take the little feet and I push it to the end and wrap it over, place it over the edge, and it holds the racks nice and firmly. you'll see me struggle with this rack several times in this video. So now that I'm ready, I'm getting a cup and we're going to do a dirty pour, and that means that I'm just going to pour all the colors of paint that I want to use into the cup. You'll get a feel for how much paint you need per size of canvas, but this way you can see these are 8-ounce or 9-ounce cups, and so I'm putting, you know, 1/2 inch in to the bottom. I started with white and then the teal. The only thing that you really have to know here is how colors react to each other. And I'm sorry for the angle, I'm correcting it right now so that my hand isn't in the way and you can actually see what I'm pouring. So for example, if you have blue paint and red paint and you put them next to each other in this cup, you're also going to get purple paint when you pour it back out. Same with, you know, orange and red, or red and yellow, you're going to get orange, and blue and yellow, you're going to get green. So be aware of what colors don't work well together. If I put that blue and that orange next to each other and stir it up, or am not really careful, I could end up with mud pretty easily. So you can make mistakes where you pretty much have an ugly painting. I'm going to tell you right up front, this turns out to be an ugly painting, but it's really good to show what doesn't work and what does work. The reason this painting turned out so poorly is because I had seen a YouTube video where somebody had used silicone blaster spray over the top of their finished painting, and so I tried it. Now, I didn't know what their pouring medium was, I didn't know what their mixture was, I didn't, you know if we were using the same pouring medium. Obviously, I did not get the same result he did. In fact, when I sprayed the blaster oil onto my finished painting, it literally pushed all of the colored paint aside and left big voids on my canvas where it was just bare canvas. So I'll try and post a picture after this video of what happened to this canvas so that you can see it. It was pretty before I put the spray on there, and I ruined it. I want you to know now, okay, so before I move on, this is called a flip cup. So I'm doing a flip cup dirty pour. I'm going to put the canvas on, I'm going to hold it firmly and flip it over, and then I'm going to let it sit upside down for 1 minute. And I thought I might not have had enough paint in that cup for that 10 by 10 canvas, so I'm taking some white, which was my base color. Remember, it was the first color I put in, and I'm putting it around the cup. I don't think I really needed to do that. Then there's the other technique I'm going to show here. It's called dragging. I'm going to drag the paint through there. You don't need to do that, but a lot of people do it. You can just lift up the cup. So immediately you're going to see that there are a ton of cells happening all around where that copper metallic is. That black and the copper metallic are making some brilliant cells over in the corner. Metallics tend to make awesome cells to begin with. If you then add silicone to it, it's really just a game changer. At this stage, I've got a medium flame. I'm holding it about 2 inches from the paint, and I'm moving pretty swiftly. I'm just popping air bubbles. After I spread the paint out and use a torch, that's when I'm really working on cell creation. But right now, I'm just getting rid of the visible air bubbles. And I'm going to start spreading it. I really like the teal on there, so I want to make sure that I don't pour that immediately off of the canvas. I watch a lot of artists do this, and they always pour in the same order, front to back, left to right, or whatever, and they end up not paying attention and pouring off the most beautiful parts of the painting. So I'm trying to save that teal color because I really like it and I really actually do like it against the copper. So you'll see the corners right there, the paint did not drip down over the top of it. This is totally okay. Whatever paint you have on your fingers there, you can go ahead and just rub your fingers over any exposed canvas and it will cover it. Not a problem at all. The chemistry reaction in this paint, it's not going to look like you ran your finger over it. There's still going to be a separation and cells that are created even on the part that you're rubbing over. You can see I'm fighting that tray because I still haven't figured out I don't have it sitting on there correctly. So in the upper corner you'll see a square block where that paint just formed a square, and then there's this big blob of pink paint, which I really don't like. So I'm going to grab the torch and I'm going to torch over the top of that paint, and I want you to watch what happens immediately. Cells start popping up from underneath that paint, and as this continues to dry for the first hour to 2 hours, more cells will pop up and the paint will continue to change. So what you finish at and you walk away might not be what you wake up in the morning to. I am such an instant gratification person that I like to do these in the evening so that I can just go to bed, and when I wake up they're dry and ready for me to do something else with. I'm that way with resin as well. Right now I have several resin pours drying for overnight. So right now I'm taking the leftover paint that was settled in the bottom of that cup and I am ribbon pouring it on, trying to fix that pink side over there. And as I do this, no matter how thin the string of that paint pouring out on, it will make cells, and by adding the torch over the top of it, it broadens that ribbon and creates bigger cells. So this is a great way to alter that look, and you can really see it down there on that turquoise. You can see these big white and black cells popping up. I'm going to move it around a little bit and you'll see the thinness of the paint still, how easily it's moving. Do you see that? So this is why I like my paint a little bit thinner, so that I can literally move it around with ease and not worry about not having enough paint. You can move it pretty easily even if you don't have a lot of paint on there. Now I'm going to grab a craft stick and drag it through, and this is another way to just kind of change the shape of the painting. You can really add some dimension and some texture with a stir stick or a straw and blowing the paint around. Alright, so I'm going to end up grabbing the camera here and pulling in for a close-up. I will try to put a picture up of how this ended up looking like, hopefully before and after the blaster spray. Thank you for taking the time to watch my first tutorial video. I promise you they will improve. Please leave kind comments and like and subscribe to my channel. I am an artist and do all sorts of different projects, not just acrylic pouring, so I am hoping to be able to show you guys what I do. My company's name is DBD Crafts and I have an Etsy shop, so check me out on my website as well. Here's the close-up and see the ribbons of pour. It's just absolutely beautiful. And that color, see those black and white cells where I poured that leftover paint onto it, and the sheen from the copper metallic. It's very pretty. Anyway, thank you and have a great day.